Hello, it is Monday, May 9th, 6:29 p.m., 1829 Eastern Time on Monday, May 9th. And this is my video journal. I made a little video yesterday that was a little bit in your face, I guess, and I apologize for that. But let's get right into it. Today I'm going to talk about Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and pistol duels. I believe the leadership 400 years ago could have established a code of honor for men to settle disputes using pistols to duel in a non-lethal fashion. They might not have had Kevlar back then, but they could have, I guess since the invention of Kevlar vests, so what, 40, 50 years? They could have established a code of honor. They didn't have to wait for paintball gun dueling pistols to resolve disputes, to end war. So that's what I'm proposing. Get your Kevlar vests and your Kevlar cod pieces and settle disputes. You don't like the way a government's being run, challenge that dictator to a duel and settle it that way. Instead of invading using a bunch of farm boys, poor farm boys that were hired because they couldn't find a better job anywhere else, you're going to employ them to invade other countries. And then you have the CIA setting up shadow governments and doing all kinds of shady stuff, backed by the military. So let's stop doing that. Let's be upfront, honest, and have an honorable way of settling disputes and fighting war. Pistol duels for the leadership, for the officers, for the generals, for even the president, and wrestling matches for the infantry, for the grunts, for the everyday soldier. You can have wrestling matches to settle disputes. So, if an officer in charge of a group of 8 soldiers approaches another officer in charge of 8 soldiers and challenges him or her to a duel, he or she says they do not accept the duel as a form of troop movement that then defaults to a wrestling match between the 8 and 8 opposing infantry military personnel. So they can refuse a duel and take it to the wrestling match. Scholastic wrestling rules is what we're looking for. That may give the United States a little bit of an advantage, but not much if you start teaching this at basic training. So I said high school wrestling rules. It's called scholastic or folk style wrestling rules. That's the rules I'm familiar with, so I could actually referee a match. There's less throws like Greco-Roman that could injure somebody, and there's less timekeeping devices involved, unlike freestyle where you have to time riding time and counteract those things. Anyhow, what I want to say is, I said before on one of these videos that Donald Trump is unfit to be president. Well, I also feel that Joe Biden is unfit to be president because of his age, and because he hasn't nominated me to any of the positions that I have suggested innovations for. So I think Joe Biden's cognitive functioning is going on by the wayside. He has trouble concentrating during speeches, focusing and remembering his speeches. If I were president, I would make very short speeches and use media to put out the information that I want to put out. But they're old school. They believe in speeches and rallies and things like that. So in my last video, so here's the deal. You have a presidential election coming up in over 2 years. Donald Trump might run again if he has enough support. We will see during the midterms how many of his nominees get elected, how much power he actually still has. And it sounds like Joe Biden's running again. If I was a person in power, if I was a politician, Democrat or Republican, I would ask Donald Trump, would you be willing to sign into a peace treaty where all war-like aggressions and actions are settled via pistol duels and wrestling matches? And I would ask Joe Biden the same thing. Would you be willing to sign into a peace treaty or put forward a peace treaty where all aggressions are solved through pistol duels and wrestling matches? If they're not willing to do that, they believe in solving their problems using deadly war. Innocent military personnel being killed because they don't believe so-and-so should run his government that way. They don't believe, a plethora of reasons that they put forward for the media to pick up and get the entire population on board for fighting a war. So, that being said, I would like to see a female president. I've made that very clear in my novel Femme Party. I made my suggestion. And I said before that I would like to be president. I actually didn't really mean that. I don't want to be president. I think I would do a great job. I think I would bring about all the changes that I put forward. And like the people that voted for Trump, I'm an outsider that wouldn't put up with the BS of the politicians, but I wouldn't bully them like Trump. I wouldn't just be a big bully that says whatever he wants. I would try to be diplomatic about things, but I still, at the end of the day, would just come forward to the public through the many outlets we have now and say, well, Schumer wants this, and Mitch McConnell wants this, and this is why we can't do anything. I would just be honest and put it all out there in my podcast. Here's where we're at. These are the people stopping this from happening. Instead of just being a bully and still making the backroom deals like Trump. So that being said, I think Kamala Harris would be a great president, even though I don't agree with her prosecuting people in California. I think Pete Buttigieg would be willing to do pistol duels, but I think he's loyal to Biden, and if Biden runs again, he's not going to just break off and run. He'll wait his turn until Biden's done. So you have, what I'm going to do is, I've already put what I would do as the FCC, and that's another thing about Trump, people that voted for Trump. They believe the fake news stuff, the news isn't accountable, that they're making stuff up, that they're whatever. So Trump just did the same thing and just bullied people using the media. I have an actual comprehensive plan to bring fact-based news back to the forefront. News based on fact, double-checked by independent watchdog groups, and voted on by as many United States citizens that want to vote on whether to fine media companies for reporting things that weren't fact-based. And an accreditation system to make sure we're getting fact-based news. This could be a model that could be replicated in all countries around the globe. That's why I want to be chairman of the FCC. But I have put out this peace treaty, and I'm going to edit it with the wrestling matches, and I put it on a secret page on my Plot M website. But I think the time has come to make this treaty public. The people in the military could have reached out to other militaries, showed them this information to digest and see which way their people would go. So to be fair, I said military, infantry, lower level officers should stand up to their higher ups who are saying, yeah, we're going to do the paintball gun dueling pistols, we're just waiting to get authorization to fund him. And it's never going to happen because they could have did it 400 years ago, 50 years ago, you know. So I kind of insinuated that they should stand up to their commanding officers in a way. And I don't mean mutiny, but I mean at least put it forward and pass it around and make it known. So I'm going to enable people to do that. I'm going to publicly publish the peace treaty on my Mitch for Mayor website. I'm also going to make some adjustments and explain my platform if I were to run for President of the United States. I don't think a schizophrenic felon can be President of the United States. I'll have to be pardoned on my felony. But it'd be interesting if I won the popular vote. I'm going to put this all together on my Mitch for Mayor website on the summer solstice. You have until the summer solstice to ask me to keep it secret and to begin funding me for the film I want to make on the winter solstice. If you think it's better done strategically and diplomatically and not publicly put out there, then I'm willing to do that. I've been trying to do that for a couple years now. Nobody's approached me and said we want to use this. So I'm going to put it out there in public so that the people that don't have those top secret security clearances and infantrymen in the military and the Marines could happen upon my website and see the peace treaty. I'm going to put at the bottom of it a email contact form that goes to my thenovelm@gmail.com web email, and it's going to say sign the treaty, drop your name and email on this form to sign the treaty. So anyone around the world in any military can sign the treaty as long as they have access to a free internet and my websites. Now I'm going to lay out my platform, but basically I'm running on term limits. Every political elected official has a 2-term limit. Term limits. I'm going to put forward term limits. Just like the president, you get 2 terms. If you can't do what you set out to do in that amount of time, you're not a very effective leader. 2-term limits. So I'm running on term limits, elimination of the Electoral College. The president should be elected via popular vote. And I have a comprehensive plan for those states that don't have the population to affect the vote. That's why we have the Electoral College. And I've heard this argument so that people in New York City and LA don't make the decision for the president every time. So, they distributed the power to the low population states. Well, I have a comprehensive plan that cuts those states' income taxes for the people of those states in return for giving up the Electoral College. And I'll write that comprehensive plan out on my website. So, term limits, eliminate the Electoral College, and law or bill size limits. Laws are meant to be written so that they're easily understandable by the people they apply to. Cannot have 200, 500, 1,000 page laws that you're passing through Congress anymore. We're going to pass common sense law limits, law size limits. If you're writing a law about sexting, it should be clear, straightforward, and able to be explained within a few pages. You cannot just keep adding things on for your districts. That's where these laws don't get passed, because everybody adds something to them. It should be focused. It should be, that's the law for this. So law size limits, bill size limits. So we have term limits, bill size limits, eliminate the Electoral College, and everything else that I've explained through my other media outlets, obviously, but those are my main running points, is those 3 points. I had one other thing I thought of, but I can't think of it now, so. Term limits, bill size limits, eliminate the Electoral College. Those are my 3 main running points. And obviously, if we can roll out the Periscope platform as campaign contributions come in, we can roll the Periscope platform out, and we can see the actual popular vote of the United States based off of their address. We can pull the entire nation and say, do you want to eliminate the Electoral College? 70% do. Then I can go to these Congress people and say, look, 70% of the popular vote wants this. Do we want term limits? 85.9% of the popular vote wants term limits. So let's get this done. Okay? So that's the main strategy. Use campaign funds to roll out the Periscope platform. To make all... Oh, that's the 4th thing. The peace treaty, pistol duel peace treaty. I'm willing to strap on a Kevlar vest and codpiece and dole it out with whoever, if need be. If my generals think that there's one person we can pinpoint to put a duel on, I'll challenge them and I'll do it. If the generals would rather keep me safe and duel themselves, well then I'm willing to allow them to do that. And if the new president has allowed you to do that, then that's on you, because you had a candidate that would. That being said, I want a female president, but I don't know how many dictators and male leaders around the globe would be willing to accept a duel from a female. So if we're going to roll out this type of peace treaty and put it forward, we may have to wait for our first female president, because chauvinism runs rampant once you leave the confines of the United States and the EU and Canada. So there's very few places, or not very few, but half of the globe, over half of the globe, are still male chauvinists that are not going to accept this form of warfare from a female, probably. I could be wrong, and I'm willing to act in any position under a female leader to try to put this forward, but I just think that it might have to wait. And if we're running Biden and Trump, 2 male candidates for Democrat and Republican, then what's a third independent male candidate, you know? So that's it. 20 minutes, pretty long one. Vote for Mitch. And we'll change the world. Make it a better place. Less killing. More sensible stuff. No more corruption. We can do this. Vote Mitch.